Hello and welcome to Fantasy Wildcard Rewind. My name is Hannah and I'll be your host for this week. And I'm super excited because we've got the gang back together and we're going to be reviewing week 8. So let's get right to it.
I just want to rewind to when we were young at heart. Back to all those good times. Take me back to the start.
Hey guys, it's so great to have us all back together. Full complement of us here this evening. So the gang is back. How's your week been, Max? Looking forward to reviewing week 8.
Yeah, can't wait to get into week number 8. Had a nice week this week. Just been nice and relaxed. Came back from holidays last week, so just easing back into real life again. So yeah, it's kind of back down to earth with a bump. I'm not on the beach anymore, but it's nice to be back as well. Had a little Halloween party as well. Dressed up as me and my partner dressed up as Jesse and James from Pokemon, the Team Rocket. So that was pretty cool. I thought, right? Paul's loving that, right?
Go on, Paul. Tell me, what Halloween costume have you been wearing today?
This is it. This is my Halloween costume. I am a pumpkin.
Scaring everyone.
You're laughing at, Max. Send it back around. No, it's been a good week. It's been a good week. It's been a tiring week. As I was showing you before we came on here, got like a 9-week-old puppy, so it's been you know what? I thought the kids were hard, but this guy is hard. If he's not chewing, he's pooping, and if he's not pooping, he's eating, and if he's not eating, he's demanding attention. A bit like me, if I'm honest.
That's puppy for you, isn't it? Well, I'm super happy that we're all back together. It's been quite a few weeks before the gang's been reunited. So let's get straight to it. And should we start with your first game, Paul? You had the Seahawks versus the Giants, and the Seahawks beat the Giants 27-13. Unfortunately, you predicted a Giants win, and you also said that Daniel Jones was going to have over 0.5 rushing touchdowns. And the curse is back. You got both wrong. Gutted for you. What did you think of the game?
No, you're not gutted for me. You're not.
I'm not.
Neither of you have gutted for me, okay? The only person that is actually gutted for me is my older brother when he texts me going, dude, you need to get some points on the board. Okay? That is it. That is the only person that actually feels for me losing. But this game was not the game as I expected it to be. Like what I've seen of the Giants and the Seahawks, I expected this to be end-to-end, points galore, touchdowns everywhere, and that's why I went for the over with Daniel Jones. I thought they'll get to a point where he'll just sneak one in or something like that. I thought this was going to be a high-scoring game. I think the Giants really struggled. They really struggled to get going. I don't know what was going on. They just didn't look like things were clicking in sort of the first half, and then they were chasing as such then. So I think they struggled. Seattle was the same. They struggled to get warmed up, but once they got warmed up, then they just took the game. One thing that did shock me was DK after what happened to him last week, and they were saying he was injured. I can't remember the name of the injury. It was really weird named injury. But like nobody expected him to be back, and they expected him to miss some weeks. The fact that he was back and he played quite well, to be fair. And I was like, I'm a bit shocked by this, especially somebody of his caliber. Was it worth risking him? Because he could have injured that knee worse and ended up being out for 12 months. So I thought that was a bit of a risk, to be fair. But I have a question for both of you.
Ooh.
And do we think that this is the start of the decline for the Giants? Because they've looked in control of every game, and they've looked really good. Do we think that a loss to somebody like the Seahawks is where things start to go wrong for them? They've got a bye week now, which I think may be at the perfect time. Yeah. But do we think this is the decline and we're actually going to see the real Giants going forward?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? So for me, I actually don't think that the Giants, it's not that they're a quality team, is it? It's that they're coached well. And I think the more stuff that's on tape, the more opposing teams are going to be like, right, we know what you're, because they're doing just little tweaks. They're doing things to kind of, disconcert the other team. And I think the more stuff on tape there is, the more the little tweaks are, I think the easier it is to kind of defend them. So I think they are going to struggle in the longer term. I think they're probably still going to manage to get some wins, because I do love Dayball, and I think that he is still going to be able to do those extra tweaks. But I really don't think that the Giants are a playoff caliber team. They might make it because of how terrible the NFC is, but I think once they get into those playoffs and it starts to be kind of you must win time, I think they may potentially start to struggle. What do you reckon, Mags?
Yeah, you kind of just took the words right out of my mouth there, Hannah. I just agree with everything you said there. They're a funny team. They're a team that's kind of obviously missing lots of pieces, but they're so well coached that you don't often notice it. And I think in this game, you did notice it, like with Daniel Jones took a while to get going. He doesn't really have a lot of weapons to work with, and then losing somebody like Daniel Bellinger, who was a reliable weapon for him, that kind of didn't really help. So I think you're right. I think they will sneak into the playoffs and probably lose their first game in the playoffs. If we're going to be honest, they might get to that scene. But that's progress for the Giants. I think they're going in the right way. And with a few things in the draft, Daboll's shown that he can coach well. They'll probably go out and draft well. He seems like a guy who knows what he wants. So I think the Giants are starting. And I think if you ask any Giants fan right now, they're pretty happy with how things are going even after this loss. So yeah, they're doing well, and they'll probably just continue to do better next year. But this year, yeah, they might get the playoffs, but not go too far. And can we just say, Paul, 0 out of 0 again? I mean, come on now. What we doing?
No need. Yeah, so I'm going to agree with both of you. I think this loss has come at the perfect time, because I was looking at I'm like, they've got a bye week now, week 9, and then week 10 they come back to the Texans, and looking, as spoiler alert, what Derrick Henry did against the Texans this week, I'm looking forward to see what Saquon can do against the Texans that week, so perhaps they could be going into week 11 as a 7-2 team that are heading for the playoffs. And again, I think you're both right. I think the wrong draw in the playoffs, that could be them on the way home. But if you ask any Giants fan at the start of this season, would you take a playoff? They'd all go, yeah, 100%. So, yeah, I think they've done really well, but I do think this is. I think that's maybe the real Giants we've seen there. I think that was what kind of team I expect them to be, not this team that come back and beat the Packers, and stuff like that. So, but yeah, but no, great. Let's get into Mags. Your first, couple of picks. You had the Patriots to beat the Jets, which you which you predicted correct, that the Patriots won 22-17, and you had Jacoby Myers under. I'm sure that said over earlier, but we won't get into that. Under 68.5 yards, and weirdly that was correct. I think you're both cheating here. He had 60. I'm sure that said over when I looked earlier, but.
If we check the tape from last week, we'll see that
we're gonna be
if we go to New York and they review it, we'll see that I said Jacoby Myers will get under because, quote, Sauce is boss. Now, I don't know how much he had to do with it really, but yeah, he ended up just scraping the under. Had actually played pretty well though, just didn't quite get the yards, which was good for me. But this game was kind of the main reason I picked the Pats to win this was because I knew Bill Belichick and the team there would game plan it really, really well, and they would find a way to pressure Zach Wilson. And this Jets team, when Zach Wilson has time, they are amazing. Zach Wilson is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL when he is not pressured. When he has pressure on him, he is dead last in the NFL in terms of accuracy, interceptions thrown, all of the stats you want to throw. He is the worst quarterback in the NFL while under pressure. And he's a top 5 quarterback without the pressure. So that inconsistency is absolutely crazy. And sadly for him, the bad is kind of outweighing the good at this stage with Zach Wilson. There's clearly a lot of talent there. Like we've seen like the last couple of plays of the game. He went to Mims and he went to Smith. He went 90 yards in about 2 throws. He threw for 355 yards in this game. How could you throw for 355 yards and still be terrible? That's odd, right? So there's obviously something there, but the worst thing I think the Jets could do is actually go out and draft a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. What they need to do is they need to go out and really sort out that offensive line, because no quarterback is going to be doing it any better than Zach Wilson if they're under so much pressure. Just at the minute in college football, Northwestern have the best offensive line that has been seen in college football for a long, long time. There's people like Skoronsky, if I'm pronouncing that right, and others there that they could bring into their team to make it so much better and just address that, because I think the Jets are building something quite good there. So Robert Saleh doing a pretty good job. Hopefully they can get Zach Wilson protected, and then they'll end up winning these games against the Patriots and continue to play as well as they have been, because they're building something here. It's a shame they lost Breece Hall, obviously, but they need to fix that offensive line. That's kind of the main glaring part of the puzzle for me with the Jets. But the Patriots said it's going to Patriot, right? And they kind of made it look pretty easy actually against the Jets, despite the scoreline not really being too flattering. So Patriots did well, great game planning. And oh, by the way, did anyone see the nice little Rabona onside kick? That was lovely at the end, right? It was very nice.
Yeah, it wasn't the best game, was it? And I think it wasn't exactly a QB masterclass from either of these QBs. I do think it showed how important Breece Hall is in this team now that he's got going. I just felt like they really did miss him. Like, we didn't see a lot from Carlton Robinson. They didn't do too much. And I think by having that kind of explosiveness from Breece Hall and getting those kind of yards on the ground, Zach Wilson's not having to do as much. So it takes the pressure off him. And it means he can be a bit cleaner, because obviously up until this game, I think it had been, multiple games where he'd had no interceptions. And then all of a sudden in the second half, boom, 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 3. Mm-hmm. And then, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
The problem we have with Zach Wilson is it's really great that he's amazing when he's not under pressure, but unfortunately that is not life in the NFL. True. Even with the best O-line in the world, you are going to get pressured at some point. I mean, these defensive lines are just so good that you're never going to not play with pressure. So I personally think that Wilson's days are probably numbered. As I say, they might not be the right thing to do, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of him at the end of this year, if I'm honest, because I do think, Garrett Wilson, he showed how good he can be as that number 1 receiver. 6 receptions, 115 yards. Yeah, he didn't get a touchdown, but he was getting those big plays, and when they needed him, he was coming up with the ball. So I actually think that Wilson probably is the thing that's holding them back at the moment. But we'll see what they decide to do at the end of the season. It's fun to see them, playing well, particularly on defense. So again, I think Jets fans will be really happy that there's been some progress with the team this year. I don't think they're going to get in the playoffs, but it's really nice to see that they've made a bit of a step forward.
Yeah, exactly. It is nice to see that, after so many years of just seeing like, oh, the Jets are the worst team again. It's like, oh no, they're actually, they're going somewhere, which is quite nice. And speaking of teams, going somewhere, Hannah, you had the Eagles and Steelers game, and you predicted that the Eagles would stay undefeated. That was absolutely spot on. They won 35-13. And your other prediction was you predicted that, George Pickens would end up with a touchdown. Not only did he not get a touchdown, he didn't get a single reception. That was very weird, right? What do you think of the game?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. Obviously, the Eagles just dominated, but you can see that this team is just firing on all cylinders at the moment. You can tell they've got this confidence both on offense and defense that they can do anything, and you can kind of see why. They have answers for everything, and it's not just on the offense. The defense is coming up with these big plays as well and making things happen when they need to. I mean, in this game, AJ Brown just proved kind of why they traded for him, and I think it just this whole season, it shows that he has really helped to elevate this offense. He hasn't necessarily got the most number of targets in every game or the most number of touchdowns, even though he did in this one. But I think just by having him on the field and having him as that extra threat, that's opening up the game for everyone. Goddard, Devonta Smith, and it's just giving them so many options. And I think Miles Sanders has played really well this season so far. And again, having those multiple threats just gives them so many options. And I think, as I say, AJ Brown really has elevated everything, including Jalen Hurts and his game. He's looking so much better. I think he has worked a lot on his throwing. I do recall you mentioning him on another podcast, our sister show, the Dynasty show, and unplanting your flag. But he has worked on it. You can see the massive difference between last year and this season. And I think they're just so confident. I can see them just ploughing through everyone. They've got one of the easiest schedules now going forward. There's no way they're not in the playoffs. They could drop 1 or 2 games. It can be difficult to kind of keep up this momentum. But I think they're kind of going full on into the playoffs. And I wouldn't be surprised if they make a full on Super Bowl run, to be honest.
Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, the Steelers, they're really struggling, aren't they? I do think that Kenny Pickett is quite a good game manager. You can see that he gets the ball where he needs to go. He is quite cerebral, but these interceptions and fumbles are just killing their chances. They're killing so many drives with those kind of things. And I don't know whether it's him kind of struggling to process quick enough, which it might be. He's only a rookie who started a few games, or whether they're not all on the same page. I know in his interview afterwards, he was saying that they're not studying enough. So whether that means that some of the wide receivers are not getting, into position where he expects them to be, I don't know, but they need to try and sort it out. They are really struggling. As a Bengals fan, it does give me a small amount of glee, but I can see how, as a Steelers fan, it's pretty gutting. You're used to, under Tomlin being so good, and it must be a shock for them to be down at the bottom. But welcome to being a Bengals fan for all these years. So I'm quite happy to see the tables turned.
Yeah, this was an Eagles masterclass. They were the first words I put down. This was an Eagles masterclass. They just look so good, don't they? They've got the defense. The defense are just trashing everyone. Then they've got a QB that's gone, do you know what? That Irish lad said that he was out on me this year. I'm going to prove him wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's proven you wrong. And then they've got the wide receivers. There's not many duos of wide receivers in the NFL that are better than Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. There really isn't. Even Miles Sanders has gone, I can actually be a really good running back if you want me to be, And I just think the whole team is complete. And that's, that's what we've seen with the Bengals. Not the Bengals, the Bucks, for all them years, like the last couple of years, they've been a complete team all around.
Yeah.
And that's what the Eagles have done. And it's just, they're so exciting to watch. You watch them and they're like, you think, the Steelers, they made a couple of big plays and it was like, oh, they could get back into this, a touchdown here, they could get back into this. And then all of a sudden it's just like that. And the Eagles have just gone, nah, we're not having this. We're not letting you get back into this game, and we're just going to turn everything around again. It's just, they're incredible. I just enjoy watching them. Watching them. But I also think the Steelers are genuinely one of the worst offenses in the league at the moment. And I've just had a look to where they're currently sitting in the league. They're currently sat next year to pick at 103. That's how bad they are. You know what I mean? And I'm like, wow. Did I expect to see the Steelers that far down? No. What is going on in Pittsburgh? It's awful. It's really, really awful. And one of them things is Najee Harris. Oh, this is somebody that you hadn't planted your flag as well, was it? Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah, can I just say that my second unplant was Najee Harris, so at least get some goodwill back here.
Yeah, well, 50-50, eh? But like, you know, they drafted Najee really early in was it 2 years ago? 2 years ago? Last year?
Yeah.
And I can't remember, but they drafted him really, really early. And they drafted him to be the Derrick Henry, the Ezekiel Elliott, the Saquon Barkley, you know what I mean? The Christian McCaffrey, this type of player. But he's not. And, you know, you could sit here and go, the O-line's shit. The O-line's rubbish. The O-line this. But actually, you know, I've seen Zeke with a bad O-line, and he's still running, yards. You know, I've seen Derrick Henry do it. I've seen Christian McCaffrey do it. And all of a sudden you're going, Najee Harris is not this bell cow, you know? And it just all seems, I don't know, something seems really off at the Steelers. I don't know if it's the coaching staff. I don't know if it's the players. I don't know what it is. Something just doesn't seem to be clicking there at the moment, you know? And one last point I'm going to make about this is AJ Brown is the Brown that the Cardinals needed to trade for in the draft, but ended up with Marquise, you know?
Oh, that's hilarious. So, Paul, your next game, it was the Titans and the Texans. What a thriller. The Titans beat the Texans 17-10. And surprisingly, you redeemed yourself in this one, Paul, because you predicted a Titans win, which was correct. And you also predicted that Derrick Henry would have over 120.5 rushing yards, which was also correct. He smashed it with 219 yards. So you get to do one celebration tonight, Paul.
Can you hear that? Can you hear that? That is everyone right now going, yes, Paul. Come on, mate. You got two right in a game, you know? 8 weeks. 8 weeks. Two from the same game. Hold on tight, guys. The comeback is on.
Yes.
No, but going into this game was Malik Willis's first NFL start. This game was also Malik Willis's last NFL start. Okay, everyone. I did it myself. Everyone predicted this guy was going to go mega early in the draft. There was four different teams. The Steelers could have had him. Everyone thought the Lions might take him. You know, there was like 4 or 5 different teams in round one. They were like, they could take him. He's that good. Like, you know, he's the Konami running back QB and everything. So many people are going to take him. And then he dropped out of round 1. Oh, well, you know, somebody will take him start of round 2. He dropped out of round 2. Somebody will take him, he dropped out of round 3. And then I think he went round 4. I think it was round 4. And everyone was like, so what's wrong with Malik Willis? Okay, that's what's wrong with Malik Willis. He cannot throw the ball. He cannot rush the ball. He can't do anything. I think his highest fantasy scoring wide receiver was 0.6 points in his first start. Oh, man. You know what I mean? This is not good. This is not good. So the Titans have got a safety net, and that guy's called Derrick Henry. Okay? So if your QB is not good, let's get Derrick Henry to rush the ball 32 times. I know, right? 32 times. He came up with 219 yards. Well, you don't need a good QB then, do you? It don't matter. You could have Jimmy G there, and you're still going to win a game. You know what I mean? It's Henry is just how this guy still does it. You know, we all talk about this running back, the age, the cliff where they fall off at 26. Derrick Henry's how old now? 29, 30. 40, 42, something like that. It feels like he's been around forever. And yet somehow this guy still does it. 219 yards. It's insane. Absolutely insane. But on the other side of the ball, the Texans, and I know you've got a lot of invested in Davis Mills in fantasy, but I fear that the Texans, who are now currently sat at the 101, genuinely could be looking at a mega QB going there next year, and they're full rebuild, and they struggled. They struggled in a game where the Titans didn't even have a decent starting QB, and they struggled to move the ball, and they struggled to do everything. And I think we saw what the Texans really are. So, but Mags, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I think you might be spot on there with Davis Mills. Unfortunately, I think he's just not. You can't pass up a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. Although I have my questions about CJ Stroud just because of, when's the last time you've seen a good quarterback coming out of Ohio State playing the NFL? But yeah, Bryce Young does look to be a good fit, and it's going to be hard to pass him up for Davis Mills, who's not shown enough probably to keep his job. But still like Davis Mills, still something there. But yeah, I can see him being dropped. But someone who's definitely not going to be dropped is that guy you talked about, Derrick Henry. I mean, was I the only one who thought that the Texans, like, their defenders, like, terrified? Like, they would, like, kind of go to tackle him, but be like, oh, like, don't hurt me. Like, they would kind of pull out a bit, and I was like, all right, like, give it a bit more of a go than that. Like, but they looked just terrified of Derrick Henry and being turned into, like, a meme of that. Like last year when he, like, hand off someone and went flying. I think they were afraid of being, caught in that and being replayed to death every weekend. So, yeah, not a great effort from the Texans defenders there. And yeah, Malik Willis, like, he threw the ball 6 times and had 6 completions, and he had 1 interception. He threw for 55 yards. Like, come on, like, what's going on here? And then they just ran the ball. It was like, you're playing like Tekken or Street Fighter, and the person you're playing against just keeps doing the same move over and over again. You can't beat it. It's just so annoying. But yeah, they just kept doing that over and over again. We'll just give it to Derrick Henry. It's like we're Eddie Gordo, and we'll just keep doing that little thing, the little wheelie thing that Eddie Gordo does on Tekken. Like, yeah, just absolutely crushed them. But
it's the same with Madden, isn't it? When you play Madden, you're like, oh, I'm going to run the ball.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to run the ball. I'm going to run. Oh,
Yeah.
I run through everyone. Oh, I run 90 yards for a touchdown. And it's just like that's all it was. It was like somebody playing Madden.
Yeah, it was like on one of the older Maddens, you could quarterback sneak for about 2 yards. So you just quarterback sneak your way up the whole field. It was fantastic. Yeah, so yeah, bit of a rubbish game, but yeah, there's a lot of rubbish players on the field, so what do you expect?
Yeah. Going off what you just said, Malik Willis's numbers. If I told you them numbers,
yeah,
you'd have said, "Oh, somebody came in as a backup. Did they? Did the starting QB get injured? Did somebody come in the fourth quarter to throw some passes? That's not somebody that played the whole game.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey probably threw for 55 yards this week. Like, come on."
I'm going to read this next little bit because it might be. Then I'm going to go and look to see how many yards Christian McCaffrey threw for. see if he actually was more. But Max, your second game. Oh God, no living with you, is it? Your second game was the Packers versus the Bills. The Bills was correct. They won 27-17, and you also went for Aaron Rodgers under 225.5 passing yards. Which was correct. He had 203 yards. What do you think of this one?
Well, first of all, can we just point out that this is 2 weeks in a row now. I've got 4 out of 4 correct. I mean, that's not bad. I'm pretty happy with it. But in fairness, this one was quite easy because the Packers suck and Aaron Rodgers is washed. So, you just give me an absolute layup there, right? So, absolutely easy for that. It was a weird game, right? Because Aaron Rodgers didn't really get a chance to throw the ball much. They kind of committed to the run, and actually, they looked a much better team for it. Jones was playing really well, I thought. It looked good, and then the second they were behind and had to throw the ball, it just didn't quite work out. But there was a little problem on the other side. That was Josh Allen. I mean, what do you do? He's like the ultimate player, right? He can run the ball and kill you with it. He makes safe throws whenever he needs to, usually in the first half. He's really good at RPO options. He can throw bombs downfield to Davis or Diggs. I mean, all the things you'd expect for the second best quarterback in the NFL. Like, just really just unstoppable at times from Josh Allen. And Rodgers, then again, the first time that they really decided, right, Aaron, you got to get the ball, you got to throw it downfield, he threw an interception right away. So there's still something not quite right there. He did make 2 really nice throws, one to Dobbs, and then one to Toure, who never heard of him before. But yeah, it was a nice catch. But yeah, just wasn't good enough from them. I said last week, Aaron Rodgers is done. He's washed. Tom Brady is done. He's washed. Neither of them did anything to convince me otherwise. Hannah, do you agree? What do you think?
Yeah, before we get started, I refuse to believe that you're amazing at predictions, Mags, and I think we're just making it way too easy for you. So I am upping my game now.
Ooh.
I'm going to do impossible ones to make sure that I try and beat you. Paul, I don't think you're going to make it, but I'll try and beat him for you. Shots fired. Anyway,
you sat there like the silent assassin there. You just listened to us beef at each other, then you just come in and gone, I'm going to shoot you, and I'm going to shoot you. Done.
Well, I've got to try and keep up with Mags. I missed last week my 4 for 4, so I didn't get to celebrate. And now, annoyingly, I've not done quite as well as I'd hoped. So Mags is pulling ahead again, and I just can't have it. I've got to try and keep up. Mags, it's too easy for you. We're going harder now. Come on, Paul.
Nice.
Don't let him win.
I'm ready.
Back to the Green Bay game anyway. I agree with you, Mags. I think getting that running game going did make a massive difference for Green Bay. They managed to get a lot more points on the board than they have been managing to more recently. And they looked just a bit better, didn't they? Look, Rodgers is just missing a decent wide receiver, isn't he? Like, I'm not saying that these rookies can't become decent, but at the moment he hasn't got his safety blanket, has he? Adams left, and that was it. He's lost that, and I think he is just lost. He doesn't know where to go when times are desperate. I'm actually really surprised that they're not using these running backs more in the passing game. Yes, they are passing through them occasionally, but I thought, one of the big reasons, especially in fantasy, that we drafted them so high is because we thought they would get so involved in the passing game. And that just hasn't really been the case. As I say, yes, he has occasionally done it, but it's not been as much the factor as I thought it would be. And I actually think it would be really beneficial. We know that both of these running backs, Dylan is really great on the ground, but we know that Aaron Jones is really good receiving back. They should use him more, push him down the field, get it to him, because he could be that safety blanket. But I don't know exactly why they're not using him like that. Yeah. But we'll see how things go. They are struggling. They were playing the Bills, though, so we couldn't expect too much. The only thing I would say about Josh Allen is I do think he's brilliant. But there was just a couple of picks in there, weren't they? In this game, and yes, every QB is going to have some interceptions, but there was at least one of them where I thought it actually just looked like Allen was trying to do a bit too much, force that ball in there when he didn't necessarily need to. Maybe just falling back on some of his older, bad habits. Might just be a one-off, but something I think to keep an eye on. I think more, as momentum gets building up, I think he'll start to feel the pressure a bit more, and that's when he might just try and start forcing it a little bit more. But all in all, not a bad game. It's always fun to watch the Bills, isn't it? And it was quite enjoyable to see Aaron Jones getting going because he'd been really struggling this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hannah, you're up next. You had the Raiders against the Saints, and you predicted that the Saints would win, and boy, did they! I mean, 24-0, not a single point for the Raiders. And then you predicted Max Crosby would get under 5.5 total tackles. He ended up with seven tackles. So not bad from Max Crosby, but bad from the rest of his team, as has been the case for a lot of the year. So what did you think of the game?
Yeah, I mean, the Saints shellacked the Raiders, didn't they, really? A shutout, which I'm actually really surprised about. If I'm honest, looking at the game beforehand, I wouldn't have expected it. I mean, look, they've got Davante Adams. You'd expect that they'd be pushing the ball down that field, but they just could not get anything going at all. Their main weapons, Davante Adams, 1 reception for 3 yards. Renfro, 1 reception for 6 yards. Josh Jacobs, 10 carries for 43 yards. I mean, literally nothing. There were a couple of balls that went Adams' way. That incompletion that was like so on the borderline that I think if it had gone his way, or if he didn't have that drop a bit later on in the game, I think the landscape of the game could have changed there. They pick up a bit of a momentum, get some decent completions on the board. And I think there's a chance that we could have had a bit more of a game. But with those two, that's kind of the epitome of the game. Nothing seemed to work for them. Derek Carr struggled. And it was just a bit of a disaster. But having said that, I thought the Saints defense did a pretty good job as well. It wasn't all the Raiders not managing. I think the defense managed to stop them. The Saints offense, not particularly exciting with Andy Dalton under centre, but they do actually move the ball. And of course, our pal Taysom Hill did it again.
Ooh, yeah.
Here he goes again. Nobody, apart from Eli Apple on the Bengals, seems to be able to stop him. I've said it. How many weeks in a row now? We know he's going to run the ball. Why can't you stop him now? Obviously, he's super powerful, and you can see him, bouncing past people, knocking him out of the way. I totally get it. But come on, you know what he's going to do. Bloody pile on him before he runs down the field. But no. But his ability to move the chains kind of keeps them going. So that kind of dual threat of Dalton chucking the ball and Taysom Hill kind of getting those short yardage situations and moving the chains has kind of got them going a bit. And, I could see them kind of collecting together a few games, piecing a few wins here and there. The NFC is so rubbish that I think there's still a chance for them, Don't shake your head, Paul. It's not your fault. Your team's crap.
I just don't like the shade you throw to the NFC, we're doing our best, like my predictions.
Unfortunately, the best is terrible.
So Andy Dalton is doing everything he needs to do to maintain that job.
Yep.
Jameis Winston is sat on the sideline going, "Well, I ain't never going to get back on the field if he keeps doing this." He's not doing much wrong. He's winning games. He's moving the chains. It's not like you said. It's not a sexy play, but it's what they need. It's what they need. Alvin Kamara, super Kamario. When he's on it, he's on it. He's not had the best of seasons, and then all of a sudden he just does this, and he just shows how good he is. My question is, what's happened to the Raiders? They started off quite well, and then they had that game against the Cardinals where they looked like they were going to walk all over the Cardinals, and then everything went Pete Tong from that moment. And it just doesn't seem like they've ever got going ever since, And I'm not sitting here saying the Cardinals ruined their season or anything like this, but I don't know. I don't know what's happened to them. They played a few good games and they looked really good and just got unlucky in games, but they don't even look that good now. No. They were awful, I know we always say that Aaron Rodgers is missing his safety blanket of Davante Adams, but I actually think that Davante Adams is sat in his house in Las Vegas going, "I wish Aaron was here." I I like Derek, but I wish Aaron was here. He'd be so much better. So I think they're both missing each other, Rodgers and Adams at the moment. I think I think we're going to see a movie. So at some point, one of them's going to get traded and back to the other one, whether it's one that way or that way, and then there's going to be them running to each other in the sunset to hug each other. Oh, we're back together. But yeah, it was not a good game, this one, to be honest. It was not one that I really enjoyed. It was meh.
Yeah. Totally agree, Paul. Totally agree. And that brings us on to our game of the week. So this week we chose the Falcons versus the Panthers, and the Falcons managed to inch past the Panthers in extra time, winning 37-34. What did you think, Paul?
I never thought that we'd choose a Panthers-Falcon game as the game of the week. I never thought I'd see the Falcons versus the Panthers battling it out to see who's going to be top of the NFC South. You know what I mean? This is a division with the Saints and the Bucks in, and somehow the Falcons and the Panthers were battling it out. And the Falcons, who I can't remember which one of us, it may have been me, had as the worst team this year. One of us had the Falcons.
You had the Seahawks.
Had the Seahawks.
Did somebody else have the Bears?
Did you have the Falcons?
I think I might have. Did I?
Yeah, I had the Bears.
Yeah, I think it was me.
You're even winning that one, Mags. God, you know what I mean? But I don't know what's going on in this division. I can't work it out. But this was a great game. This was exactly what you wanted to see. It was end to end. It was, Foreman was in, then the Falcons were in, and then it was turnover this way, there it was turnover, and it was just brilliant. It was just every time I was watching it, there was something happening that was like, oh, what's going on now? What's going on now? It was a really, really good game. One thing that I will point out though, Eddie Pinheiro is currently on the phone to Matt Rule to find out if he's got a job anywhere, because Eddie Pinheiro is going to be out of a job sometime in the next couple of days, I think. He had a kick at the end to win it, the extra point, which he missed, and then he had a kick in overtime again, which he missed. So I think he lost this game for them. They could have been top. The Panthers could have been top of the NFC South, and they didn't do it. But and another one is DJ Moore. DJ Moore is finally starting to be a wide receiver and catch the ball. And it only took Cam Newton, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield to get it done. And somehow PJ Walker is the guy that turns DJ Moore into a phenomenal wide receiver. But yeah, Max, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, it is quite nice that PJ Walker is on that team, because he can give Eddie Pinheiro some tips about how to play in the XFL, because that's where he is going. Eddie Pinheiro, you're right, lost that game for the Panthers, along with, we did just mention him, but DJ, get some more clasps for that helmet, mate. Keep it on. What are you doing? He's part of the reason why they lost. And he's maybe part of the reason why they even got a chance to win the game. But every time I looked at DJ Moore, he had his helmet off. He was throwing it on the ground when he's angry. He was taking it off when he was happy. Just keep the helmet on, mate. Let's keep it under control here. So yeah, bit of a shame for them that he made those silly mistakes. And yeah, this was a great game. Absolutely loved it. Mariota was terrible and great at the same time, as he usually tends to be. Kyle Pitts, lovely touchdown, absolutely beautiful, isn't that right, Paul? And touchdown highlight for me, apart from obviously the more one, is Damari Byrne got a really nice sort of jet sweepy kind of all the way around. That was absolutely beautiful. So yeah, absolutely love this game. Really, really nice, and good for the Falcons, top of that division. No one had ever thought that, and yeah, they're doing all right. I still don't think they're a good team, but there they are. They're top of that division. So hey, what do you think of it, Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, I did have a feeling it would be a shootout because neither of these teams are the finished product at the moment, are they? You know, they're both in this kind of rebuild mode. I think since the Panthers got rid of Matt Rule, they're kind of starting to knock it down a bit, aren't they? Sent CMC away and they're kind of in that rebuild. So in a way, I suspect they are mad with Pinheiro that they lost it for them. But by the same token, they might be thinking of next year's draft picks and thinking actually that might just give us a little bit closer to that top of the board there, really. I do think the introduction of PJ Walker to that offense has made them much more watchable. I mean, they're quite fun to watch now, aren't they? That Walker DJ Moore connection really is shining, and it's really fun to see. That bomb, I think, as we've all mentioned, was just awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the other side is the Atlanta defense is pretty terrible. So it's not like PJ Walker had too much kind of a challenge ahead of him. But I think it's really great to see that Arthur Smith is scheming to his offensive play strengths. So because he's doing that, although they're getting, you know, a lot of points scored against them, they're managing to stay in these games and often kind of win them based on kind of his scheming and how he is similar to Dayball, you know, how he is kind of scheming things up to the strengths of the players that he has on the team at the moment. So I think, you know, it's really fun to see both those and the Giants kind of scheme to what they've got and see them do well with not necessarily superior talent, really. So I thought it was really good fun. I mean, as I say, neither of these teams I don't think are particularly good, but it's nice when you can watch bad teams and still have fun, you know. So shall we review our scoreboard for this week?
Yes,
Max,
please.
damn you got all 4 correct. And Paul and we got only 2 correct this week, although that's quite an achievement for you, Paul, right? So at the moment, Mark is unfortunately sitting at the top with 25. I'm not too far behind with 23. And Paul, as usual, you're bringing up the rear with 15. It's going to be a struggle, I think, to catch up, but you never know.
Right where I want you. Got you right where I want you.
I'm not even going to ask you if you want any money because I already know what the answer will be. Shall we just move on to our hit rewind moments of the week? So, Mags, let's start with yours.
Yeah, mine was, and I have to, you know, I was going to say, you kind of teased us earlier, but I got to say, it was from that Philadelphia and the Steelers game, and AJ Brown catching either his second or third touchdown. I lost count. I think it was his second or third. I can't remember. But he caught it, and it was like he was made of steel because the other defenders just kind of bounced off him, and they fell to the ground, and he was just like, 1, 2, and like counted them as they were on the ground. He got a flag for it, for, you know, taunting, but totally worth it. Absolutely brilliant celebration. So, and yeah, got to say, hold my hands up. Jalen Hurts, I thought it would have taken like a Josh Allen-esque turnaround for him to really, you know, come good. And that's what he's doing. He's been absolutely amazing, throwing the ball, running the ball, everything. So, you know, fair play Jalen Hurts. He's obviously put the work in. What a player. What a throw. And that was my hit rewind moment of the week. Him to AJ Brown, an absolute cheat code at the minute in the NFL.
Mine was, and I'm a massive homer for this one, but it was the DeAndre Hopkins one-handed rocket catch. You know, I don't think it was a great throw from Kyler because it was sort of, you know, his hand was up on his left, but it was a rocket. He caught it, and he was battling with Harrison Smith as well, who, let's be honest, Harrison Smith is no cup of tea, like, you know. And but yeah, he caught it, he brought it in. Welcome back, DeAndre Hopkins.
Nice.
I actually put down something different, but I do have to mention before I say mine quickly that PJ Walker to Moore bomb really should be in here. So I'm going to give it a highly recommended second place for my, moment of the week. But I do love myself a trick play. And that CMC throw to Ayuk was just kind of some fun trickery, wasn't it? And I think it makes it even more impressive that he's only been on the team for a week. It's not like he's got this amazing connection with all the players. He's practiced it a million times. They know it's going to work. I mean, if they've done it once or twice in practice, it's probably some sort of miracle. So I thought it was pretty impressive, and the fact that he pulled it off was awesome too. So that was my hit rewind moment of the week. So let's move on to our best of the rest in the rapid recap. So Paul, I think it's you up first.
It is me at first. I was given the Ravens versus the Bucks. I think this was like a really good game, to be fair. I think the Ravens, who, by the way, breaking news, have just traded for Roquan Smith. Is that how you pronounce his name? From the Bears.
So that's big.
That's a big trade for them. But yeah, this was a great game. I think I was actually keeping track of it because I was in work at 2:00 on Friday morning, so I was keeping track of it as I was driving in the truck, and it really felt like the Bucks were going to get back into it, and Brady was doing Brady things and marching the ball downfield, and I thought, they're going to go for this, they're going to get this, and they're going to pull it back, but no, the Ravens held on, and the Ravens progressed to 5-3, and good news. Mark Andrews doesn't look like it's a serious thing, but Rashad Bateman is looking like he could be out for a couple of weeks, which is, I would say, a big loss, but I don't really think it is that big of a loss. I think Mark Andrews coming back is a bigger, it's better and bigger news for them. I think Lamar Jackson really missed having Mark Andrews there. I know they got the W, but I really think he did miss having Mark Andrews there with him after he went. I think he went out in the first quarter. But yeah, it was a good game, good battle. Nice to see the Bucks moving the ball on the offense side of things.
Yeah, that was a nice game, I thought, as well. And I had the Broncos beating the Jaguars 21-17 in Wembley, and I thought this game was in Germany for some reason. I'm going crazy. I think I was talking last week about the game being in Germany, but yeah, it's typical Jags, right? At the start, they looked great. Looked like they were going to win. They threw it away. This team still needs a wide receiver. They absolutely need to invest in, a Jackson Smith and Chigba, or a Quentin Johnson, or a Jordan Addison, or somebody in this draft, because Christian Kirk is all fine and all that, but he's not an alpha number one receiver. He's a good squad player, but yeah, they need an alpha number one receiver to help out Trevor Lawrence, because Trevor Lawrence, again, throwing under 200 yards, and that's just not going to win you very many games. Travis Etienne looked great though, so that was nice.
Yeah, I had the Cowboys beating the Bears 49-29, and this Cowboys offense is clicking, isn't it? I think they've stopped overcomplicating things. I think actually Dak's injury was quite helpful for them, because they had to work out how they were going to do it with Cooper Rush, and they've kept some of those concepts for Dak, making life a bit easier for him, and it's made a massive difference, and they're clicking. And I think now this offense combined with that superstar defense, they could become really dangerous, and I think they're potentially nipping on the heels of the Eagles here. And depending on how things go in the NFC, they could be the two top teams at the end of the day. Looking at how things are going. Don't shake your head, Paul. We know the Cardinals are rubbish.
I will get to that.
Just really quickly on the Bears, it's nice to see them starting to tailor the offense onto things that their QB can do. And I think, Fields is starting to show some nice things. I don't think necessarily that means he stays, but the fact that they could score 29 points on this Cowboys defense, I think shows that, they're making things a bit easier for him, and he can do, more than we necessarily thought he could at the beginning of the season. And of course, we just have to super mention for Tony Pollard. Look at that. Yeah, he just looks awesome. And the opportunity he got just to show how good he is. We're not going to have time to talk about it now, but I don't know whether we can, or how can the Cowboys continue to justify Zeke as their RB1. I just don't know. But let's see where we are next week and how much use he gets. But I have a feeling they're going to shove him in again. And I think it's a real shame Pollard is giving them that extra juice. I think he should be carrying it more now.
See, funnily enough, you gave me the Vikings beating the Cardinals 34-26. I think on the Cardinals side of the ball, I think they do look loads better with DeAndre Hopkins. I know a lot of people said DeAndre Hopkins changes Kyler Murray, and he genuinely has. But we need to sack Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know if you've seen it when we were I can't remember what it was. It was a third down, and we were watching the play clock, and nobody does it. And then they called the timeout, and I was like, "We're in the first quarter. Why are we calling timeouts?"
Yeah.
Because nobody's not paying attention and stuff like this. And then they come back out, and then Kyler's pointing over there, and because of the loud noise, they took the snap, and then he's going to jump on the ball, and you're going, what are we doing? Guys, Kyler, do your homework, man. It was in your contract. Do your homework, okay? Cliff, start calling some decent things. Guys, get this ball moving. The Viking side of the ball, they look really good, okay? The Vikings look really good. If they could close games out earlier, I genuinely think this would be a team to fear. I think they're playing really well, and they just struggle to close games out, and they let teams back in, and it all gets a bit nervous and a bit touch and go in the fourth quarter. We've seen it time and time before, but the Vikings look really good, and on both sides of the ball, and
and I had the Lions against the Dolphins in head. When the Lions lose by 4 points. I mean, it's the same old story with the Lions. Every single time they come out, they look good, but they just lose by the smallest little amount. But hey, how are you going to stop Hill and Waddle and Gesicki and Mostert? How are you going to beat those guys? They're absolutely lethal. So unlucky Lions again. The sore losers of the NFL once more this year.
I had the 49ers beating the Rams 31-14. I mean, there's not too much to say about this apart from triple crown CMC. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he totally is justifying that trade that they made for him. And again, I think he adds that extra element to that offense, which opens everything up a bit more because they're having to kind of, make exceptions for him and counter for him as well. So it opens stuff out for everyone. I do think the Rams did look a bit better than before the bye. Obviously, they didn't kind of get the points to show that, but I do think they did look a little bit better.
Yeah, and I also had the Commanders and the Colts. This was an awful game, like a really, really awful game. I didn't enjoy this game one bit. I think it's because it's two bad teams that are genuinely bad, and nothing they can do is going to work. Jonathan Taylor, I don't think Jonathan Taylor, he was out with a high ankle sprain a few weeks ago, and I think he's come back, and I think they've rushed him back because they weren't winning games, and they've rushed him back, and now he's still got that high ankle sprain, so he went off, and I've seen him putting tape around his ankle at one point and stuff like that. So I really feel that he's been rushed back, but yeah, pretty boring game all round. Nice to see the Commanders get a win though.
What a great roundup of week 8. So let's have a look at our week 9 predictions. So Mags, your first game is the Rams versus the Bucks. So give me who wins, and do the Buccaneers get over or under 17.5 total points?
I'm going to go Rams win, but the Bucks will get over the 17.5. And Paul, you got the Vikings against the Commanders. Who's going to win? And is Terry McLaurin going to get over 5.5 receptions?
Vikings win, and yes, he's going to get the over. Hannah, what a great game you've given yourself here. You've got the Seahawks versus the Cardinals. Who's going to win, and who has more touchdowns, DeAndre Hopkins or Kenneth Walker?
So I'm going to go with the Seahawks win.
Get out.
But I think I might go Hopkins for the more TDs. I'm thinking that the Seahawks might have to go to the air for this one. So tell me, Mags, you get the Dolphins versus the Bears. Who wins? And does Tyreek Hill get over or under 8.5 receptions?
Dolphins over. Or no, under. I'll go under. No, I'll go over. Sorry, sorry, I thought I changed
First
my mind.
answer, Hannah. First answer.
Dolphins and over. Paul, Bills, Jets. Who wins? Zach Wilson, more interceptions or more touchdowns?
Bills wins. More touchdowns.